Ah! 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 Dragon Ball Z!
Dragon Ball was a best-selling anime and manga series created in 1984 by Akira Toriyama. The series was about a young boy named Goku traveling the land in order to gather the 7 mythical Dragon Balls. This series destroyed sales records, and when it concluded, a sequel series called Dragon Ball Z immediately began production. This new series focused a lot more on the fights, with aliens, androids, and devils all having massive planet-destroying battles. It was always an exciting show to watch, but the question was, would it make an exciting video game? That's what developer Dimps was asking themselves back in 2002 while they were making Budokai. Now, this was far from the first Dragon Ball game. I mean, there were already tons of them that had been released in Japan. However, even at their very best, all the games that came before it were really just okay, and none of them were popular enough to make it over to the West. Budokai was supposed to be the biggest and best Dragon Ball yet, and pave the road for other Dragon Ball games in the future. So the question now is, did it work? Did they manage to create a transcendent masterpiece that would pave the way for future Dragon Ball titles? Or did they fail and create an unoriginal piece of trash that would ultimately be the final nail in the series' coffin? Well, don't touch that dial, because we're gonna find out this week on Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Dragon Ball Z Budokai was a fighting game released in 2002. However, I personally didn't come across the game until several years after it released. I can still remember, even to this day, the first time I saw the game. I was just a young lad roaming my local GameStop, looking at all the covers, seeing all the new games, my $10 allowance shaking in my pocket as I walked around. I knew I wouldn't be able to get anything. All the new games were so expensive, and even the pre-owned ones cost $20 a pop. The best that I could afford was the bargain bin, and whenever I would go to buy a game from it, my father would always remind me that if a game was that cheap, it couldn't possibly be good. However, on that day, things were different. I was there with just my mother, and I saw a game in that very bin that caught my eye. Maybe the box art called to me. Maybe the screenshots on the back impressed me, or maybe I just wanted a good fighting game. Either way, it didn't matter. Fate had played its hand, and I knew I had to get this game. So, I grabbed it, gave my modest savings to the cashier, and walked out with Budokai. Yeah, looking back on it, this may be where I got my love of game hunting from, and when I started looking for better deals on games. It's also when I learned to stop listening to my father. I mean, just last week he told me, "Drive safe, son," and I said, "Screw you, Dad, I'm driving with my eyes closed. I hit a teenager, my court date's next Tuesday." So enough stalling. You want to know how the game is, right? Well, first impressions are pretty good. Upon boot up, you're greeted with the classic Rock the Dragon opening, but this time in 3D. This intro is really well done, and while it may look a bit dated today, it's still awesome to see the original opening reanimated in such a way. In terms of gameplay, it's a fighter that plays pretty similar to Tekken. For the most part, you're locked into one lane facing your opponent, but you can sidestep in order to move around them. Like in most fighters, you can guard, punch, kick, and grab your opponent, but Budokai also offers some of its own unique features. First off, there's the Energy Blast and Ki system. By hitting your opponent or charging, you build up your Ki. Ki can then be used for a variety of purposes. First off, at the press of a button, you can let out a blast of energy that will fly towards your opponent. This can be used as a guard breaker or a combo extender. However, with a properly timed guard, your opponent can deflect this blast right back at you, meaning if you spam energy blasts, you'll end up regretting it. But the main thing you'll be using Ki for is techniques and transformations. These can be used by performing certain button combinations at specific times. For the most part, these button combinations are pretty easy to memorize and perform. It also helps that most techniques end with the same button, and you'll get a reminder at the bottom of the screen when it's time to press it. These techniques are split into 3 main categories, which I'm going to call energy, physical, and transformation. Energy attacks are large versions of your standard blasts, but typically have a shorter range. These can be blocked, but your opponent will usually take at least some damage. Physical attacks can be performed when the player is right next to their opponent. When triggered, the opponent will be launched into the air and a short cutscene will play where they take damage. These typically do more damage than energy attacks, but if they're blocked, these techniques will be completely cancelled. Finally, and perhaps most interestingly, there's the transformations. By passing a certain threshold of stored Ki, you can transform your character into a higher state. Characters can have multiple of these forms, each triggered at a certain Ki threshold. These give the player immense power and access to certain techniques. However, this comes at the cost of your Ki, which will begin to drain. The more powerful the transformation is, the faster your Ki will drain. If you fall below the threshold that was required to enter the form, then you need to be careful, as one strong hit will cause you to revert. To use any techniques or transformations, though, the player has to equip skills. Skills include energy techniques, physical techniques, transformations, and also passive buffs. In the game's story mode, the player is given a set list of skills that are all auto-equipped to them. However, for all other modes, the player has to unlock and equip skills themselves. Skills can be unlocked through completing story mode, winning tournaments, or just buying them from the shop. This lets you customize your characters in a variety of ways. You can make a Krillin that focuses on physical attacks, a Cell that focuses on transformations, or a Goku that just spirit bombs everybody. The options really are limitless. This adds an extra layer of customization that you just didn't see in most games at the time, and really helps to create a character that you feel most comfortable with. Overall, Budokai is a pretty competent fighter, but I would have liked to see it do a few things differently. First of all, many of the combos and techniques just aren't worth the hassle to perform. Many energy techniques don't do a whole lot of damage, and the physical techniques can just be outright cancelled really easily. Also, you call this a Kamehameha? I mean, come on! Ha 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 ha. Hello, son. What are you watching? Oh, hello, father. I am watching AMAC 50,000 and enjoying it greatly. That's good. Are you subscribed? No, I'm not. And I didn't like the video or leave a comment either. What? What's the big deal? Hello, boyfriend. I am your girlfriend, and I'm breaking up with you since you're not cool enough to be subscribed to AMAC 50,000. What? Hello, I am your current/former teacher, here to tell you that since you are not smart enough to be subscribed to AMAC 50,000, you must repeat all of school. How could this get any worse? That's not all, son. You get the belt. Don't let this happen to you. Subscribe to AMAC 50,000 today! Please. In addition to the standard versus mode, there's also tournament and story mode. In tournament mode, you and several random NPCs are all placed in a bracket and fight a single elimination tournament to determine who's the best fighter under the heavens. Watch out though, because in this mode, you can also be eliminated by having a ring out. But if you win, you can earn skills and zenny. Now overall, this is a pretty basic mode, but come on, it's a Dragon Ball game. You can't have a Dragon Ball game without a tournament mode. That's like having a sandwich without any bread. It just doesn't work. But the real meat of this game is in its story mode. This mode follows the series' story and has you playing through all of its major battles. Now the game doesn't cover all of Z, but it does go all the way up to the Cell Saga, and if you ask me, that's still impressive. Also, like the intro, all of the cutscenes are taken from the anime, then remade using 3D models. These are all done perfectly, and do an amazing job at telling the story. Once you beat the main story mode, you unlock various extra scenes. These include seeing events from different angles, seeing extra events not shown before, and even what-if scenes that explore what would happen if events turned out differently. These are some really cool extras, and I had a blast playing through all of them. Honestly, my only complaint about the story mode would be its length. If you're good at the game, then you can beat it in around 4 hours, and after you have, there's not much of a reason to replay it. Now, it's pretty clear why it's so short. The team working on this game was relatively small, and reanimating all the cutscenes must have taken a lot of work. Ultimately, I think they made the right choice, as the game's cutscenes and art style are really what sets it apart from other Dragon Ball games, but man, if they could have just had more time or had a larger team, I would have loved to play more of this story mode. Now, when this game came out, critical reception to it was mixed. Reviewers complained about the game's shallow combat and short story, but praised its animation. Despite the criticism, though, Budokai did its job. It paved the way for future Dragon Ball games, and it helped introduce the series to thousands of people. It even started a golden age of Dragon Ball games at the time, and to this day, the PS2 has more Dragon Ball games on it than any other system. And personally, I can't help but love this game. It's the game that introduced me to Dragon Ball, and I've been following the series ever since. I still remember playing through the story mode over and over, quoting Goku to my friends, and staying up late at night to watch reruns of the show. So, if you like Dragon Ball, or if the series looks interesting to you, then I'd definitely pick this one up. Trust me, you're in for a good time.
So good news, Budokai is a fantastic game! And better news, that teenager I hit with my car survived! Yeah, it turns out I didn't realize it, but I was only going like 5 miles per hour, so he's not even injured. It's a huge load off my back. I would have hated to harm or seriously wound this young teen that had just started his life. He's got his whole life ahead of him. I would have hated to take that away from him. So it's just a huge load off my back. And in terms of the court system, since he's uninjured, the judge said all I have to do is do a few hours of community service and connect with the youth by playing... I should have driven faster.